Hi everyone, from me, Brent Graham, on this Friday afternoon in South Africa. It's 4 o'clock here in South Africa at the moment, and it's time for the first Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters of 2025. Yes, we're back on air. Looking forward to talking rugby betting. And I must say, given how late the teams come out, particularly in this Investec Champions Cup, it didn't make any sense to have it on the Thursday night. And perhaps we have to consider moving the show perhaps to a Friday evening. Anyway, welcome to the guys. We'll hopefully have some participation from the live chat. And let me welcome the guest as well. It's at Jackal Rugby, Alan Schultz. Alan, welcome back to the show, mate. How was your December?
Yeah, thanks, Brent. Good to be back on. A bit of a different one for me, who's normally a diehard Eastern Cape December holidayer. So I had a time with the in-laws in KZN, which was hot and humid. So a bit of a different one for me this December, but very happy to be back in the Cape.
Excellent. Well, I can see a few things on your screen, on the screen in front of me that interest me. I want to start off with the first one. What's that? Is that books or CDs or what is that in the shelf at the back there?
Oh yeah, those are books. Yeah, it fools people into thinking I'm a studious guy. Yeah.
You're the first. I think you're the first of the studio guests that can actually read a book. So well played to you. Well played to you there.
They're all real. I actually have read all of them.
You have read all of them. Well, that's pretty impressive. And of course, we're going to be talking a little bit of reading form now when we go for the rugby. Let's have a look who we got in studio. Nathan, how's it, Schultz, and Brent, Paul van Rooyen, saying there he is. I'm assuming you know Paul because he's certainly not. I don't think he's talking about me. Mark Dumpy, great shirt. Brent, still going strong. Mark, you said this to me probably 3 years ago now. I can honestly say the quality of these Leinster shirts, this one in particular, was absolutely superb. 2M Systems joining us. Guys, all of the bets for 2025. We're going to have a very interesting show here because most of the teams only got released about an hour ago. I've been watching the betting. There's been a few moves. In fact, this week, I thought there'd be a lot of early betting action. But in fact, the bookies only priced up initially on 6 games and eventually on 8. So the South African lines we're actually seeing now for the first time. And I'm not going to criticize the bookies on this. If I was a bookie, I would not have priced up, given all the doubts and stuff around team news. So I can't blame him for that at all. But Al, we got a full card to get through, and let's start at the beginning, which is tonight. It's your team, Exeter. Now, before I even get into this, that's not an Exeter. I know you love Exeter, but you're not wearing an Exeter shirt. What's the story there?
My Exeter shirt's in the cupboard, but I thought I'd wear the Leicester one. Any team that gives the Sharks a 50 has my backing, eh? So I got this last year during the World Cup. A friend of mine gave it to me. So when I thoroughly enjoyed them giving the Sharks 50. So I thought I'd wear it in solidarity with the boys there.
Well, it happens at Leicester Leicester and Leinster. Am I right in saying that they play? No, I've got it wrong. It's Toulouse against Leicester. So I got mixed up. I was hoping outsides were playing each other. Leinster, of course, playing against Bath this week. But let's have a look at this one. Al, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share screen now. You may struggle to see all of it, but I will talk you through the handicaps here. I've opened up Bet Exchange as a site because the handicaps are fluctuating so much. First game, we got Ulster against Exeter. Now, Ulster opened 13.5-point favourites. I say opened, that's when I first saw the line. There might have been something a bit earlier. 13.5. The line has moved out. Exeter making a number of changes. We've got a line here of 17.5 and a points line of 57.5. Now, obviously, taking the, it sounds as though you've already taken the sort of Exeter supporters cap off for this weekend. What do you think of those betting lines? What's going to happen in this game?
Yeah, I think I'm surprised that it's perhaps not bigger than the 17. It's a straight shootout. Ulster and Exeter both of 0 points. So whoever wins this goes into the Challenge Cup. I thought with Exeter being so badly adrift in the league, they're not going to make 8th. I thought they might give this, try get into the Challenge Cup and give that a go. But with the team they've sent to Ireland, it doesn't look like they're doing that. They've sent quite a lot of B team Oaks and quite a lot of Oaks haven't played like any rugby, not even in the Prem Cup. They're like B division that they played in over the Autumn International. So I don't see much hope for them. Ulster are also notoriously hard to beat in Belfast. So I think I might be watching this with my hands in front of my face tonight.
Like watching clubbing baby seals. Just an interesting point here. I hear what you're saying about the finishing fifth, and you're more than likely right. But actually, if I read it correctly, Ulster with a big bonus point win over Exeter Chiefs will get to 5 points, same as the Sharks. And Johan just made the comment on the live chat now. He says you're going to have to buy a Bordeaux Bagels shirt there as well, because they're also going to hammer the Sharks this weekend. Point I'm making, I think Ulster still have an outside chance to the top four. If they can get a bonus point win, improve their points difference, which is currently 50 odd behind the Sharks. But if they win by 30, that will cut down. And if the Sharks take a hammering against Bordeaux, you also read it that way, that Ulster could potentially still sneak into the top four?
Yeah, I do. I think that actually could be a runner, although I thought the Sharks would send a bunch of Palookas out there, but it looks like they've gone fairly strong. Like Kulisi's playing. Most of their box, except for Etzebeth, are either
Williams,
starting.
I think Grant Williams is there.
Yeah, so I mean they've gone fairly strong, but yeah, I mean that would be hilarious if from this position they then fall into the Challenge Cup again. And I'll be backing Bordeaux all the way on Sunday afternoon with a bit of red wine and a baguette. Don't you worry about
that. Well, Nathan making that same point about the qualification, I guess. Looking at it from the Sharks' point of view, that's the thing. You fall into fifth, and now you play Challenge Cup again. But potentially, they might just be happy to settle for a bonus point and possibly, because that's all they actually do need from the game to secure that fourth spot. So anyway, on this game, I'll tell you what I've done. I've put we've got a betting blog on Good for the Game where I'm just covering. This is actually just my early handicaps. But the first bet has gone up for the weekend. When Exeter under 20.5 points at 20-21. I just think tonight, the points line is high at 57. I think Ulster are going to win this one comfortably. I don't particularly want to go unders on points. But I think that Exeter might struggle to get the sort of 3 tries they require to get it. So I've gone Exeter under points here. And if pushed, I'd definitely be leaning Ulster on the handicap. But anyway, it's going to be a good one. Peter Paul joining the show for the first time this year as well. Peter Paul, good to have you. How's it, Schultze and Brent? And 2M System says Ulster by more than 32M. I'm very much with you on that one as well. We'll get back to the Sharks there, but Johan's saying the Sharks have to score 4 tries. That's fair enough. They're going to battle to do that. Nathan reckons they're going to get absolutely hammered. Anything else to add on this game, then? Anything betting-wise to add before we move on to the next one?
No, nothing on that one, no.
Right. Well, now let's go to another game. We've also just had teams, and we've seen a handicap line for the first time. We're talking Bulls here against Stade Francais. This, of course, is taking place at Loftus. Now, I don't know about, I would imagine the point lines will start coming out over the next hours. We don't have that. What we do have here is a handicap. Bulls minus 19.5. The Bulls, I've had a look at their side. They've named a strong side. For me, the Bulls, if we look at the log, let's go quickly to, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Al, maybe we should, we were talking before, maybe we should do it by pool rather than in order. So forget everything I just said now about the Bulls game. And let's move on to the first of the Pool 1 games, which I think will be Leinster against Bath. I'll give you a price on that now. So
if we're talking Pool 1.
Yes, give me the game, please. I'm getting all mixed up.
So Ulster Exeter's Pool 1. So it's the 2 Sunday games. So Bordeaux Sharks and Toulouse Leicester in Pool 1.
Okay, let's bring up that Sharks game now. We'll be talking on that. I can tell you this handicap has also only come out recently. I actually kept this game minus 28.5, and I see the bookies have gone minus 27.5. So very much where I expected it here. But like you say, the Sharks haven't named the total mug side there. Al, have you had a chance to look at the Bordeaux side yet?
Bordeaux have gone pretty much as strong as they can. They've got all their hectic backs like Luku, Jalibert, Retier, that Ruan Janssen van Rensburg's on the bench, Mofana, Bio Barres, fullback, and Penno's on the other wing. So yes, they don't need. Exeter had, I think, 60-something% possession, and they took 70 points last week. So that shows you these guys don't even need the ball. And the way the Sharks played last week as well was pretty clueless rugby. I think they could fall into the same trap, and Bordeaux at home are incredibly tough. And I think I don't know how many teams have ever got 20 points out of 20 from the pool. So they'll be gunning for that, especially with Toulouse just behind them. There's no room for error for them because I think Toulouse will get the 5 points as well. So they'll want to finish top. So despite the Sharks, taking a fairly strong side, they've still got those two locks who you basically never hear the commentator mention in a game, and I just can't see them coming close. I think as Johan says there, as much as they just need a bonus point, it's easier said than done. Just scoring 4 tries there. I think the Sharks could have a long day out there.
I'm just going to have a look at the Sharks bench here as well. It's kind of, I mean, it's not a terribly weak Sharks side, but it's also not a terribly strong one. It's very difficult to know. It's almost like they picked the side waiting to see perhaps what happens tonight, and seeing, do we need to actually go for it and go for the bonus point or not? And they've probably got the options to maybe give that a shot. But yeah, I know it's a tough one, that, but not the worst Shark side I've ever seen there. So just going back to the betting, we're looking at a handicap here of 27.5 points. Now that is, even as bad as the Sharks have been, that is quite a big handicap. Alan, which way would you be leaning on the handicap there?
I still think Bordeaux can beat that. As I say, I think they also get stronger as towards the end. They can blow away teams. Sharks might be in it with their sort of starters, and then in the last 20, when they make changes, I think they may lose whatever cohesion they would have had at the start. I can't see past Bordeaux, and they have been pretty ruthless in this competition. And as I say, I think with Toulouse pushing them so hard for that top spot, I think they'll be hell bent on trying to maximize their points difference. Although they're a point ahead on the log, so if they
score only need a bonus point win.
Yeah.
It's actually quite interesting. I mean, that you can get it. I mean, the way this tournament is structured, you've got the top 2 on the table that are not going to play each other. They're both French sides, and because they're in the same league, they don't play each other. So it's quite harsh on Toulouse. They're probably going to go into their match without a chance of finishing top of the table, but every incentive there for Bordeaux to absolutely put the Sharks away. Guys, I'll tell you where I'm looking at this. I haven't really got, the handicaps have just come out. I haven't got my head around anything at this stage, but I'm looking for something like Bordeaux first half tries. I think they're going to start off quickly, and I think they're going to get that bonus point try as quickly as possible. Blake brought up a point here, and I just want to bring it up. He did say once Bordeaux have their bonus points, they may concede some tries, and that's a good point, and that might be the way that the Sharks actually end up getting their points. I always say if you back a big underdog, you've got 2 chances at it. They can play better than expected. Alternatively, they can go so far behind that the other team basically stops caring.
Yeah.
But to Alan, to your point, geez, I was watching them like last week, and Bordeaux don't really step off the gas. They like to keep their foot heavily on the accelerator. 2M Systems, definitely not a Sharks fan there. Johan reckons we'll have a look at points in this game, and he also agrees the first half cap is a player right. Then give me the final game then for Pool 1 there, Al.
Toulouse-Leicester.
Toulouse-Leicester. Now, this handicap opened minus 18.5. It came out, it was the 7th handicap out, if I could put it that way. It moved to minus 21.5. I actually thought it would be a little bit bigger. What are your views on this one? I mean, it's a high handicap. The way I see it, let's just pop back to the table. I'm losing my mind here where everything is. Pop back to the table. I mean, Leicester at the end of the day are assured of third spot. Obviously, they can move above Toulouse with a win, but so I don't know what type of team have Leicester selected here. I personally think this is one that Toulouse will probably win fairly comfortably. Having said that, they're probably going to go into the game knowing that they cannot get top spot. So, tough one.
Yeah, and they all. I mean, even though the game before was right before them, it's not enough time to perhaps change your mindset. I still think, it's a France-England game, so there might be that sort of niggle. The Frenchies don't dig the poms. Checker side, the Leicester checker side will always have a go. You won't send a B team out. I'm actually just trying to find that team. But Toulouse, there's probably also, as you say, maybe not that much for them to gain because if Bordeaux have pumped the Sharks, then they can only come second. So although in saying that. In this round of 16, it's how many points you get. So So it's the top seeds. I think that's how it works. The most points. So they'll want to try and get to 19. There's the side. Yeah. So they've, as I say, they've pretty much. That is their strongest team.
That's interesting. I didn't expect them to go this strong. I must just double check I'm opening the right tweet. You might find they haven't tweeted for 3 months and I've opened something from a while ago, but I'm pretty sure this is it. So that's
no, you're right. And also the thing is, and this comment goes for all the Premiership sides. They play a game next week in their league, and then they've got 2 months off during the Six Nations. They don't play, so Checker will want to flog his players here because none of the guys who aren't involved at England will be off for 2 months. So he can just say, well, chaps, you just got 2 more games to play. So I think Leicester will go hard, but I just Toulouse are. They're the best club side in the world. This Leicester team won't beat them. It's just simple as that.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I'll show you, just in terms of information on teams, something I've started doing of late, and I'll just show you here, which helps me sometimes in interpreting, not so much a team like Leicester where I know the players, but some of these French teams where I don't know the players. So sometimes the team gets announced and I'm not really sure how strong it is. And what I find is, in the comments, you sometimes get something, but generally I'll view quote tweets here on Twitter. And I'm sure there's better ways or other ways, but this gets it to you fairly quickly. And then you go down and you see what people actually say. Like, here's this guy, Richard. Whoever going to win in France, that'll be the team that does it. So just a useful way, if you don't know the players, and I hope Oracle's listening, but if you don't know the players and you want to get a feel for the strength of the team, then you can certainly use Twitter that way as well. But that's then the end of the pool 1. Let's quickly pop and see what's got in store for us on pool 2. Here we got Leinster and La Rochelle. They of course played last week. Leinster holding them off right at the end there on La Rochelle home ground. They have 13 points. La Rochelle 10. We've got Bath and Benetton are in the 3rd and 4th positions at the moment. Then Clermont and then the Bristol Bears. Alan, this is an incredibly competitive pool because the top 2 are obviously the top 2 here. La Rochelle could in theory still get overtaken, but any one of these teams could still progress to the top 4.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's incredibly tight. Again, you've got on Saturday afternoon, the first game in the pool is Clermont against Bristol. Both of them on 5 and 5th and 6th point position. So it makes it very interesting because obviously one of them has to win that game, and then it puts pressure on Bath, who on 7 points. Bath have got to go to Leinster and win to then overtake the 9 or 10 points that Clermont and or Bristol will have. So, yeah, this pool looks like some good games. Clermont, their team looks pretty strong. They were, I thought, quite unlucky in a way last week against Bath. Normally Frenchies, when they go to England, they don't really care, but they took it to them and very dubious red card. And when Adamson refs, you almost might as well not watch the game with such as a frustration that you're left with. And he did them wrong right at the end. They're not giving them a penalty, which could have given them a chance to get a bonus point. But be that as it may, Clermont's another difficult place to go. Their crowd is right on top of you, make a lot of noise. And this Bristol team is they play very loose. So this Clermont pack is massive. And that's definitely something that you wouldn't say that a Bristol pack is their strong point. With you've got oaks like Genge who can't scrum. Thacker will come off the bench. He's basically a dwarf. So I think Clermont will pump them up front, and then they've got their halfbacks are proper. The one guy who is really good for Bristol is that South African with the mullet, that Janse van Rensburg. He's been killing it there for like 2 years. So, I expect Clermont to win, especially with the incentive for them that they can then, go to the next stage. They won't want to play. They won't want to play Challenge Cup. So, I expect them to win that sort of shootout for a top 4 position in the pool. And then it makes it, then Bath are really stressing because then, they've got Leinster away, which is not ideal to end the group.
No, definitely not. Just quickly having a look at the betting. Clermont minus 12.5. This has been a fairly stable handicap all week. It's getting pretty close to where I handicapped this. I think I handicapped this one. Just going to skim down at, minus 14.5 is where I kept this game. So getting pretty close there at the moment. I'm not seeing an awful lot of value in this game, but I'm leaning with you there, Alan. I think, if anything, I'd be saying Clermont. I've just got a feeling that the Bears may not rock up for this one. Right, let's move on to the next game in the pool. That's MB Leinster and Bath.
We can do that one. They play at the same time as Benetton La Rochelle. So, that makes sense.
Okay. So we'll do that one. And then, so I thought that was interesting because this pool, because La Rochelle and Leinster play at the same time, they won't know. Although they'd probably both assume they're going to win. Leinster here against Bath, there was actually now I'm getting confused. Let me look what I know I priced it up 18.5. It opened 14.5, went to 17.5. But I see now on Bet Exchange, looks like a bit of money for Bath at minus 15.5 here. Leinster at home to Bath. What do we got in store for us, Alan?
Bath have gone strong. I see one of my favorite players, Thomas du Toit, is on the bench though. I think they're looking for impact from him. That Will Stewart starting at tight head. But otherwise, they've picked a strong team. And, Van Graan's quite a wily operator. He also knows, you take a B team to Leinster and it could get messy. So, he's taken a strong team. But, Leinster have done pretty much the same. They're full strength apart from Doris is on the bench. They've got a Lighty playing blindside for them. Deegan, I think it is. This Leinster team is, as you saw last week, they didn't play particularly well, but still won in La Rochelle. So, I presume, or not presume, I take it for granted that they'll win this game, top the pool. That the points, what do you say the points on was like 18, something around there. That's probably
the handicap was actually 15.5 now. 15.5.
I don't know. I think Bath could give them a go. Bath they could beat that handicap, but I don't know if they won't win the game. But that is quite a big win for Leinster. Sure. You got me thinking on that one now. As 2M System says, there's Leinster this season haven't been, that 17 points suggests that they're going to give you 50. They haven't really been that side. They took all the points that were on offer last week. They kept on going for polls and they kept missing. They'll be too strong. I actually think Bath might run them quite close.
So I haven't got a points line yet on this one, but I can tell you one bet and I haven't got off to the greatest start this year. I'm going to be honest about that. But one bet that has done very well for me over the last 3 to 4 months is going unders on Leinster's opponents. I think, and I'm quoting now from work I did last week. Let's just say from September last year, so when the season started, they've only once conceded 20 points. And that was against Ulster, where they conceded 20 exactly early on in the season. I think it was around from the start of the season. But point being, if you look at Leinster's, say, recent 6 or 7 games, they're conceding 12 points, 7 points. It's incredible how strong their defense is. So we haven't got a points line yet. But I could see this following a typical Leinster game pattern now. They go out there, they maybe get the lead, and then the second half they possibly hold. They just almost hold on. They seem to almost take a more of a defensive strategy sometimes. So lots of different betting angles we can look at there. But 15.5. I would say, Alan, I'm in agreement with you, and that looks tricky. Mark, interested to hear what you do say Leinster not firing on all cylinders, but you also do say they're the best defense. Mark, as a Leinster supporter, would you be suggesting that Bath can beat this handicap? Blake saying Bath will be competitive, and that is suggested there in the betting, which, as I say, has shortened from 17.5 to 15.5 now that teams are out. Now, anything else on this game before we talk La Rochelle?
No, I think you covered it there. Yeah, obviously, Ninaba's defense, he's had time to work with them. It's bedded in, and yeah, they're very hard to get through.
Right, let's move on to the next game, and it's Benetton Treviso against La Rochelle. We've got a 9.5-point handicap here. La Rochelle are favourites. I just want to pop to the log just so we can once again just have a look there. We've got La Rochelle 10 points. They play at the same time as Leinster. Look, they'll be assuming that Leinster are going to win, but they'll obviously be looking to hold on to their second place with a victory here over Benetton. Tough for Benetton in a sense because they play La Rochelle now. You'd have to assume they're going to lose, which means, okay, if Bath lose as well, they might still find a way of going through. But otherwise, one of the other teams from five or six are going to go above them. What are your thoughts on this one? What sort of team of La Rochelle named for us here?
They've, O'Gara loves this competition. I think he's the only one involved in any top 14 side who wants to win this more than the top 14 itself. He's named strongest team that they can pick. That Reddy Wadi got injured last week, so that 21-year-old who came on at Lucet is starting. Otherwise, they've gone as strong as they can. That Winnie Antonio went off early. He's starting, and I think, at the risk of being disrespectful, a lot has been made of this, like the rise in Benetton and Italy's rugby. But to be honest, I don't really see it. I think they're both still very average. You know what I mean? Like who they beaten. And La Rochelle are, as I said, O'Gara gets super fired up in this competition, and he won't want to have a loss in Italy on his CV. So they're going to go hard at these chaps, and I think Benetton are going to be, one of the guys who fall out in the last round because they would qualify if we went through now. But as I said earlier, Claremont and Bristol, one of them is going to go above them, and you can't see them. You can't see them coming close to La Rochelle. Also, with a ref like Carly, who doesn't really play advantage, it's a stop-start, and that'll probably suit La Rochelle. They play a very slow game, and they just try and smash you up front. So it'll suit their big pack if it is a stop-start affair there. So I'm interested to see what the points line is on that.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens with the points line. I mean, I take it from your comments on the ref. And I mean, I know a lot of punters do follow the refs. You get what I remember. Henrik always used to refer to overs refs and unders refs and that sort of stuff. But I'm starting to pick up that if you had to make a list of all the refs you really, really like, it would be quite a short list.
No, there wouldn't be a list. I mean, you look at that Chris Busby. I mean, you know what I mean? You get one chirp and then you decide to retire from reffing. I mean, and frustratingly, just talking on refs, I left one out. To lose Leicester should be a great game, but then you might have to watch it on mute because you've got Ben Whitehouse, the referee. So listening to that accent throughout the game could put you over the edge. So Carly is he's just a stickler. I don't think he's a bad ref. He just doesn't really have a feel for the game. Plays no advantage. He's probably a policeman in a former life. So, it could be stop-start, but La Rochelle should win easy.
Right, let's move on then to Pool 3. We got the Northampton Saints here on 11 points. I must tell you, I had a multiple ending on the Northampton Saints just to win last week against Stade Francais. 21-0 up. I could not believe it. 21-0 up in the first quarter of the game. I didn't even bother watching. I had other bets on the Saracens Munster game. I could not believe it when I switched over and Stade Francais not only come back and actually beat them very comfortably. Well, anyway, we've got the Saints on 11, Munster on 10, Saracens on 10, Cast on 9, and then we got Stade Francais on 5. Stade Francais still in the mathematically. The Bulls, of course, are absolutely gone as far as progressing, certainly to the round of 16 goes. Which game do we start with here, Al?
Let's go with the Bulls.
Bulls, Stade Francais, right. I did mention earlier that the Bulls have named quite a strong side. The handicap, we can expect a bit of movement in some of these lines because the caps have only just come out. But we look here, it's been pretty steady since we started the show on BetExchange. Minus 19.5, the Bulls. I can tell all of you waiting for points lines just to be a little bit wary. We've had a tremendous amount of rain in Johannesburg and Pretoria. I'm sure if you've been watching the SA20 cricket, you've seen that. Game at Centurion Park rained out on Sunday. Last night in Johannesburg, we only got one innings in. So just be wary about the points. But we've got a big line here. And I think Stade Francais have rung the changes, Alan. What do you make? Is 19.5 points going to be enough for the visitors?
Yeah, okay. I didn't take that weather comment into account, but they should win. They should win by more than that. The golden number for them is 22. They need to win by 22 points. Get a bonus point, obviously, and then not allow Stade to get a bonus point, and then they'll go through to the Challenge Cup. They've picked this pretty much the strongest team they can. And, early in the comp, Northampton were going there and everyone was saying, oh, Northampton are going to get smashed. It's hot. It's at altitude, and Northampton outplayed them. Well, not outplayed them. They won comfortably. The Bulls should have, they just didn't take their chances. But I think the Bulls might take that anger out on a very weak Stud side this weekend. Yeah, the Stud side is unrecognizable from the team they play in top 14. So they've obviously come here and probably thought, look, we can't be bothered with the Challenge Cup either, because they're really struggling in the top 14, and every French team, that's their bread and butter. You cannot afford to get relegated from that top 14. So I think they're going to laugh this competition off, focus on their top 14 next weekend. They've sent a team that shows that. The Bulls, I think they will. It looks like they could finally click. They create so many chances, Brent, but they play some very, very stupid rugby. I think they could turn it around this weekend, though. And also for Jake White, he probably needs to win a competition after losing to Glasgow in the URC. And if they go to the Challenge Cup and they've got let's be honest, they've got a strong squad. If they drop down to the Challenge Cup, they should back themselves to try and win it, similar to what the Sharks did last year. So that could be one for them. But if Stade get a bonus point here, the Bulls have really done themselves a disservice
all over. So it'll be interesting, because you'd expect this to be a very free game. But if the Bulls had their designs on the Challenge Cup, and I never thought about that, but it makes a lot of sense, then 2-2M systems point, they have to stop Stade Francais getting a bonus point, which they should, like you said, they should be able to do. But at the same time, so it's not going to be a case of running wild on attack. They need to watch their defense as well. So it's going to be interesting to watch that. We've got a points difference here of 43. Now, that's quite easily wiped away, because remember, if the Bulls score 22 points more than Stade Francais, they're already 1 point ahead on points difference because they're playing each other. Yeah. So, this could be a very interesting game. I'm actually looking quite forward to this one. I must say, at 19.5, which is the current handicap, if it's there in the morning, I send out my newsletter on a Saturday morning with this rugby, because I just of no value to send it on a Friday morning when we don't have teams. The newsletter will be out there. The link in the description box below. I can almost guarantee you, if this minus 19.5 is still available on Saturday morning, it's going to be right up there towards the top of my best bets. I think the Bulls are absolutely going to hammer Stade Francais. I think they can win this game by 40 points plus. So very, very confident on the Bulls there. What's our next game we must chat about in this group?
Northampton Munster.
Northampton Munster. I think that's. Let me just search for them on my list here. And of course, I called them Saints. So there we go. Right. So we've got the Saints up against Munster here. This handicap, it's opened round about 4.5, then went to 7.5, and I'm talking Saints favourite here. We've currently got a line of Northampton Saints minus 6.5. I must just tell you, Alan, there was one punter who was very happy when they beat the Bulls. It was me. I was on them at 7-2 and also on the handicap. So very, very impressed with them. At the same time, very disappointed with them last week in France. What are we going to get here? Because Munster, I'm baffled to read them at the moment. A good win last week at the end over Saracens. They came from behind. But I don't know. On the road, my money would be on Saints here to win by 7 or more. What about you?
Yeah, so it's another another tight group. Northampton and Munster, to the top two sides as it stands. Again, one of them will fall by the wayside with the defeat here. I'm going to go. I think Northampton, Northampton and Munster have actually both struggled in their domestic competition, but Northampton, They did really well against Bath, top of the log, 2 weeks ago, winning a 35-34 thriller, where their backs were cooking again, which really won them the league last year. So, yeah, Northampton have got a good side. They're good at home. I see them winning. I think my prediction was 12 points. So yeah, I think that's about right. You're right about Munster. They've been quite hard to predict. That's where O'Gara got his love for this competition, though. So they are a team that does enjoy this competition as well. They always take a lot of fans to wherever they play. Even DHL Stadium, they often bring lots here. Even to a pool game. So they'll take a lot of Oaks there to England, but I just think the Northampton side's a bit slicker at the moment, especially scoring, as you said, going out to that big lead last week, showing their attacking intent, and against Bath, who are top of the log in England, they scored 35 points against them as well. So they look like they're coming right, and I think they'll win it by more than a try. Yeah.
I think you and I are aligned there. I do like Johannes 1 to 12 selection there as well. Also, selection I often take when I'm not too convinced on the handicap. Yeah. Let's move on to the last game in this group then. It's Saracens against Cast. Now, the French team did me proud last week. I backed them at a virtually choice game early in the week. The Bulls named a weak side. And in the end, there were times where I was a bit worried about the bet, but they ran out comfortable winners. Saracens on the other end, I backed them to beat Munster, and they looked like they were going to do the business and then faded. We've got a big handicap here, but it's very much where I set it. Alan, I'll have a quick look for you. It is minus 25.5 Saracens here. So I'm reading into that Cast out. I've named a weak side here. Have you had a chance to have a look?
Yeah, they have. I think they maybe they gave a call to the stud chaps and said, "Look, who are you sending?" Because I think they also were going to be backing the Bulls hard there. They've sent a weak team. They don't seem too bothered. I think they're gonna hope that the Bulls win and it keeps them safe in 9 points to qualify. And Saracens, I guess they've got an outside chance here, because if they get 5 points and Northampton or Munster only get 4, with the points difference being so even, there's only 1 point that separates them from Northampton and Munster from points difference. If they get if they win by 50 points, that's going to far eclipse the victory margin in the Northampton Munster game. So, I think this Saracens Cast. Also, how difficult is that name to pronounce? I think I say it differently every time I say it.
Well, me too. I just sort of say it and hope. There's plenty of those in the French league.
But I think, to be honest, this Saracens game looks similar to the Bulls one, where it could be anything, 30, 40 point difference. With the common denominator being French side, who's not really, in terms of the side they've selected, not really interested in rugby this weekend.
And of course, the Saracens will have the advantage of knowing what they have to do going into this game, because they do play the last game in the group. I think it's on the Sunday.
So, So they'll have a whole day to.
Yeah, and look, I mean, one way or another, they're going to want to win the game. I mean, that's a given. But as opposed to their motivation, if they know they've got to win it by 40 points or something, for example, they can go out there and do it. And we've often seen in those situations where teams, many years ago, the Bulls had to beat the Reds by some ridiculous amount of Super Rugby, and I think they won 92-3 or something. So when teams have that incentive, particularly against a team that has absolutely no incentive, things could get very interesting. So this is a weekend. Yes, you can get involved now. We've got team selections, but there's a lot to watch in terms of how other results go, and there could be some interesting moves in the markets as well. That was at the end of Pool 3.
You forgot to mention that was an Eddie Jones coached Reds team that took 92.
Was it really? I didn't realize that. But if I'd known, I would have mentioned it. I would love nothing more than another dig at good old Eddie, who ruined my beloved Australia. Right, pool number 4 here, Al. Final pool we're going to talk about. We've got 2 teams already qualified on the top 2 positions on the log. Who finishes first is up for grabs. So we've got Toulon and the Glasgow Warriors separated by points. Then it gets very interesting. We've got the Harlequins and Stormers each on 5 points. and the Sale Sharks on Racing, Sale also on 5, and Racing on 4. So bottom line here is a lot can happen in this group. The third and fourth spots can pretty much go either way. Which game do you want us to start with here?
I think leave the best for last. So let's start with Quins against Glasgow.
Quins against Glasgow. Let me find that on my list over here. Here we go. Harlequins against Glasgow. And I'm going. So these are the top. Harlequins, I can tell you, open -1.5 against Glasgow. It's gone to -4.5. So they are favourites. This is actually exactly where I've capped the game. Although personally, I've got to tell you, I'm leaning towards the Glasgow Warriors here. What do you think on this one? Of course, Glasgow can give themselves a crack at top spot. But at the same time, Harlequins can't really afford, if we look back at the log, Harlequins can't really afford to lose this game if you get a situation where, possibly Racing hammer the Stormers and go ahead of them, and then the Sale Sharks are favourites against Toulon. So what do we make of this game with that handicap of 4.5?
Yeah, I must tell you, I was doing my preview blog, and the first draft, I said Harlequins would win, and then when I reread it, I changed my mind and I said Glasgow will win by 5. But yeah, I think that shows how close the game is. Very, very interesting sort of context in the game. Glasgow, a lot has been written and said about them being a dark horse, but that's if they stay playing their games at home. So this is perhaps quite a good test of this side to see if they can win away from home. They don't have Tuipulotu in the centre. That Stafford McDowell is in with Jones in the midfield, so that's a huge loss for them. He's such a big part of how they play. He runs in the vacuum off a line out and that little no-look pass that he loves. So that's a big loss for them. But I think they probably. As I said, I would just change that. I think it'll be close, and I think they'll win by 5 rather than Quins, as the betting has it. Even with that Tuipulotu out. But you're right. Quins need to make sure of their qualification. So they'll also, they'll be going hard. They've picked the strongest team they can. I see that Cunningham South is back in on the blind side. So they've gone as strong as they can as well. So I think it's going to be a tough game for Glasgow, but I think they will win it in the end. And it's two very very exciting teams. So maybe the points line might be one to go at. That both teams rely quite heavily on their back line to get them victories. So the points line could be the one to look at.
It'll be interesting to see when the points come out. I expect a very entertaining game, and also the try line, if I can call it that, the tries line, your total tries in the game. I don't see many 3-pointers being taken. It can be proved wrong in that situation, though. And I must say I was leaning Glasgow, but now that you tell me Tuipulotu's out, I must say I'm going to rethink this game, Al. I'm a little bit worried. I just rate him so heavily there at centre, and I'm going to give that one a bit of further thought before I get involved. What's the next game for us on the cards?
Sale against Toulon.
Okay, that's the final game of the weekend, I think. Now, this game I got horribly wrong when I handicapped it. I actually thought Toulon would go in here quite firm favourites. They actually opened about +5.5, I believe. By the time I looked at it in South Africa, it was a choice game. And then word did start spreading that Toulon had some injuries. We've now got Sale -4.5. The thing is, and South 4 alluded to this in the Good for the Game forum, anyone who watched Sale last week against the Stormers, now obviously an away game and all of that, but they stacked. I mean, they had a decent side out here. They were just so poor. It's hard to get my head around how they can start favourites against Toulon. What are your views here?
I mean, when I saw pictures on social media of them spending all their time on the beach, I had a feeling that they weren't really serious about that game. Although I was there, I was in a box, luckily. And I mean, the first 20 minutes, they had all the territory, all the ball. France got a yellow card, so that tells you they were, dominating in the scrums. But I think it was was it at 14-0 when their centre dropped the ball? So, that was I think we scored just after that. So it went from what should have been 14-7 to 21-0, and then they basically gave up. Toulon, Sale are at home. Toulon have been one of the most impressive sides in the competition for me. They, came to PE with a strong side, and they, whilst they only won by 10 points, they smashed my boys up front. And then their 2 games at the Stade Mayol, they've been very good in beating Quins and Glasgow. So I think they will. Well, in looking at that team, I don't know if you have the Toulon side. I
can probably pull it up on. Let me just pull up Toulon quickly. I know some of these French sides, or some of even. I must actually start a list with all the teams. I've got one for the URC, which I keep an eye on. So here we go. Toulon, we'll pull up their team in a second. Okay, look, this looks like it.
Yeah.
This up. Right. Yeah. Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah. So you see there, Ribbons is on the bench. I wish he would come back to the Stormers, but we can't pay him enough. Serran on the bench as well. He's obviously one of their best players. Garbisi on the bench, bigger starting. So, it looks like they've kind of bit of a mix and match here. All their loose forwards seem to be not their main guys. That Issa's not there. He's not even on the bench. Abadi was in the French squad now, is not there. So, and their locks look weak. I don't know, because they can, the worst for them is they finish second on the log. So they again will be in a position, these Frenchies, to know exactly what they'll need to do with Glasgow playing the night before. This has actually become a bit more tricky, especially considering how Jekyll and Hyde Sale are. They beat.
That's a tough game.
Bristol have been doing well in the Premiership. Okay, yeah. Like Bristol have been doing well in the Premiership.
Yeah, and also, I mean, but the thing is, my point I want to make there is exactly what you're saying. Really, is there's a lot of money on sale, but I think if I back Sale here, I'm a little bit, I'm nervous after the way they sort of in and out. They've got a decent home record, but I don't know. As you say, this game to me actually looks hell of a tricky. Looking at that bench, is it a situation perhaps where they if Harlequins win, they'll obviously they'll probably go for the win to Quins beat Glasgow, then they'll see what they need to do, and if necessary, they'll bring the bench on early, some of the guys. Otherwise, they might be prepared to let this game go. I mean, first and second in this competition, first and second, you're guaranteed a home round of 16. But I'm understanding that second place, you're not necessarily guaranteed a home quarter. I think something happens. I've read so many different formats on this thing. I got it wrong earlier. I don't know. I can't remember where I got it. What do you think here? So if I gave you, I said you had to have a punt on this game, which way are you going now?
I think I gave this game to Toulon. Even though they, as I said, there's quite a few starters not in that team. Sale are, kind of hot and cold, and as much as what's the psychology? You lose 40-0 the next week. Are you demoralized, or are you out to prove a point? It's like what team comes out there.
Yeah, there's also if I'm a team and I'm just using Sale Sharks as an example. Okay, big hiding last week away to the Stormers. I think they went there thinking they could beat the Stormers, and if they had, they obviously would have been right in the mix, even potentially challenging for a sort of top 2 spot. They didn't, and now you look at it and go, they're going to have to travel in their round of 16. Deep down, do they really believe they can travel and beat any of these other teams? I don't know. I might be reading too much. I just think, this is a potentially dangerous game. I'll no doubt get involved. I'll either be chasing, desperately trying to catch up by the end of the weekend, or hopefully looking to consolidate some victories here. But I think we can both agree, this is a tough one, Alan.
Yeah, and I think I think I wrote in my piece. I think I was saying something along the lines that the Challenge Cup is probably sales level. I think this competition needs to be, needs to be 16 teams from the start, not 24. And if that were the case, Sale I don't think would make the cut. And Sale, yeah, I think the Challenge Cup is probably more their style. Yeah, I think this is a very difficult game to call, to be honest. Just the French mindset with the changes there worries me in terms of backing Toulon. And yeah, maybe Sale come out the blocks hard there. Because, with Racing a point below them, if Racing get a good win over the Stormers, then, and if Quins go down badly, Sale suddenly have got a shot to come third in the pool. So, yeah, I think that's a game I will watch, but I shall not be betting on.
Yeah, it could be. This is one of those weekends where I'm having to just hold myself back a little bit as well. I know from past experience, sometimes I think I know what, like, let's just say teams and coaches are thinking, and I actually get it horribly wrong sometimes. So let's wait and see. But anyway, at the end of the show, it's been a great chat. I'm actually pleased I didn't go and bring any other guests on, because we would have actually been a hell of a long show then, of course, with 12 games. So it's been great chatting to you, Al.
Hey, we haven't finished. We haven't finished.
It's another game.
Racing Stormers.
Which one have I forgotten? Oh gosh, yeah, okay. Sorry, man. Racing Stormers. Let me not jump the gun there. Let's get the betting there on that one. Then I also that one we got Racing minus 14.5, and I'll bring that one up there. So yeah, just popping back to the table. I mean, the winner of this game is quite likely to go through to the last four, the way I'm reading things. It just depends, really. A lot depends on that if Harlequins win or not. 14.5 points here. We got Racing favourites, Al.
Yeah, I was concerned last week when I saw the Racing team that was going to Glasgow. They left all their big oaks at home, and I knew with the Stormers going there this week, that did concern me. And yeah, Racing are, they are under a lot of pressure in the top 14. Everyone hates Lancaster because he keeps picking his son, who's quite cuck. And Farrell hasn't really worked out, even though he was injured. But Farrell's back. And yeah, they've got quite a mean bench as well, like Wocky's on the bench and what have you. So yeah, the Stormers have picked a stronger side than maybe I thought they would. I know all their eggs are in the Leinster basket for next weekend. Leinster won't have their Irish guys, so I think they're trying to get a shock win there in Dublin, and they can make this a tour. I mean, if you look at that side, Satoli's, him and Vermaak are basically the same. Dweber's better than Fenter. Fouchier and Malherbe, it's pretty much a coin toss, although, as soon as Fouchier went off last week, next scrum, Fouchier won a penalty. Murat, I don't know how he plays in this side, but anyway, Schikkeling and Van Heerden are the locks if you take him to the bench. So, yeah, I mean, that team, the forwards are pretty powerful. It's just the back line you start to worry. Duvenacher's, fourth choice. Matthias, he's not my cup of tea, excuse the pun. And then Blommetjies at fullback scares the shit out of me, to be honest. So, yeah, this... I think Racing will unfortunately be strong favourites, and I think they could win. They could win this quite easily.
Yeah, I'm with you. They're looking at the team now, and just looking at some of the comments here. Guys are saying be a bit careful of Racing. They're not having the greatest of seasons, but yeah, for me, Racing 14.5. I just want to quickly go look what I capped this game at 15.5. So I was pretty close, but I must say, leaning towards it now, I am starting to think potentially a big win for Racing there. So now that does, Alan, bring us to the end. I'm not going to jump the gun this time. So I'm going to ask you for your closing thoughts in terms of what your sort of, as things stand, your best bets would be. Which are your favourite games you're looking forward
to? My best bets are, I think I nailed my colours to the mast in the show. It would be Bulls and Saracens, both to beat their handicap quite comfortably. I'm looking forward to Leinster Bath to see Van Graan against Ninabe, see how that goes. Hopefully, my boys Exeter will put up more of a fight than perhaps a lot of people think tonight. And then Bordeaux for a big win over the Sharks, hopefully. And then my boys the Stormers, hopefully they can get a win and qualify for the round of 16, which didn't look like a possibility a month ago.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't expect them to have any sort of chance going in there. It's funny how some of the pools have worked, though. I'm just going to bring up Johann's treble. Great to have you back with us in 2025, Johann, with your weekly treble. Ulster minus 16.5, Bulls minus 19.5, La Rochelle minus 9.5. Must say I like all of those, but I'm very strong on the two you mentioned there. I like the Bulls and I like Saracens as well. They dish out an absolute hiding there to the French team. Farid, who joined us late, he said he's going to watch the rest of the show afterwards. It's Bordeaux and Toulouse to add to the Bulls and La Rochelle. He's talking there on Johann Esterhuizen's bet. My bet, of course, well, they'll be posted in the blog. Go there now. I did put a link down below as well. You can see I just posted as I go along this week, having a look at all the handicaps, some of the scenarios. But then as we go along, we put up Exeter bets. We'll be putting up all the bets. The South African teams do have their own previews, but I'll link to it from this blog as well. So you can go there. We've also got, of course, the boys chatting in the forum. Guys in the live chat, thanks very much. Great that you could join us at 4 o'clock on a Friday. Love to hear your thoughts on this sort of time, or whether it should be maybe a little bit later, like maybe 5 o'clock on a Friday. Or, any thoughts on that I always appreciate, because good to know what the guys want. I guess having team news does make a nice big difference from a betting point of view. And then to Alan, what do you got planned for the weekend aside from watching rugby?
Not much aside from rugby. These Champions Cup pool weekends are great. On Saturday you can watch 4 games in a row, and then Sunday 3 in a row. So we'll just be keeping tabs on all the games and flicking through the channels. It should be a lekker weekend of rugby.
Great. Well, I'm going to go spend some quality time with the family now from 5 to 7 while I'm watching SA20 cricket, so that I can be free to watch rugby all weekend. Alan, great having you on the show. As always, mate, look forward to lots of chats with you throughout the year. Farid, yes, you are mentioning the Challenge Cup, also some great opportunities. I will certainly discuss those in the forum, and if I see anything, I'll put it on the blog. Although I must admit, I just find 12 games has got my head spinning. So I'll probably look at the Lions games and I'll look at the Cheetahs games. I see the Lions have named what looks a pretty decent side. But thanks, everyone. Next week, join us for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters, and watch Twitter or X and watch the Good for the Game forum for the time. But we may well start moving the show to Friday, because URC as well. Often we have to do the show without team news, and it certainly is a lot better. Good to have you back on the show, Nathan. All the best, guys, for 2025.